A nuclear submarine just lost contact with command. Not because of an attack, not because of equipment failure, because a server cluster in Virginia stopped responding. Now 12 officers are sitting in complete silence beneath the Pacific Ocean. They're running out of time to decide whether the world above them still exists. This isn't a story about your phone dying or Netflix going dark. This is a story about what the world actually is versus what you think it is. Most people imagine the internet going down and picture traffic jams, empty ATMs, frustrated people waving phones in the air. They don't picture a surgeon in Los Angeles with a patient open on the table, screaming at a nurse to run 4 floors down to find a printed medication chart from 2019 because the dosage system won't load, and there is no backup anyone can find. That happens on hour 6 of day 1. It is not the worst thing that happens that hour, because while that surgeon fights to keep one person alive, something is happening 60 miles above the earth that nobody on the ground knows about yet. And once you understand it, everything that follows gets significantly darker. GPS doesn't go down with the internet. Most people assume it does. The satellites keep broadcasting. Your car still knows where it is. Here's what doesn't work. GPS signal authentication, the layer that stops enemies from feeding fake coordinates into military systems, runs through internet-connected verification servers. Without that layer, military GPS automatically flags its own signals as compromised. Precision-guided weapons go into lockdown. Entire drone fleets fall offline simultaneously. 3 separate nations with active military operations suddenly have guided munitions that refuse to fire. Surveillance drones circle aimlessly until their batteries drain. The soldiers on the ground have no idea why air support just vanished. The generals know, and they are not calm. But that's the military's first problem. The second one is so much worse the first one almost stops mattering. Modern US military logistics runs through commercial internet infrastructure, not by accident, by design, because commercial networks became so fast and so cheap that defense planners quietly integrated them into everything. That decision made perfect sense for 20 years. It looks catastrophically different today. Someone in the Pentagon is physically opening a filing cabinet for the first time in 11 years, searching for a contingency protocol written before half the current staff was born. The most powerful military in human history is now operating on paper, while that submarine crew beneath the Pacific is still waiting for a response that will never come. Now, let's talk about something nobody is discussing. Prisons. 2.3 million incarcerated people in the United States alone. Modern facilities run on networked systems, electronic locks, surveillance feeds, medical records, sentence management databases. When the internet dies, facilities switch to local backup. But local backup wasn't designed for this. Within 48 hours, systems start failing in ways nobody predicted. Electronic locks default to open in some wings, locked in others, depending on how fail-safes were programmed by engineers who never imagined an outage longer than a weekend. Guards scramble to manual protocols they last practiced during training. In 17 facilities across 3 countries, people who were legally supposed to be released that week cannot be processed out. The court records confirming their release dates are completely inaccessible. They stay locked up past their legal release date. And there is no fast fix. Because the courts are offline too, the legal system just quietly vanished. And nobody on the outside knows it yet. Day 4. Something is happening above the atmosphere that only a handful of people on Earth fully understand. And they are terrified. Low Earth orbit is more crowded than it has ever been. Starlink alone has over 6,000 satellites up there, moving at 17,000 miles per hour. Most of them use internet-connected ground stations for orbital adjustment and collision avoidance updates. Without those updates, they don't fall, but they stop maneuvering. In a sky packed with objects moving at that speed, not maneuvering is another word for catastrophe. Space agencies can see collision probability rising in real time. They are watching it happen. They cannot stop it. On day 9, one dead satellite gets clipped by existing debris. Small impact, almost trivial sounding, except the debris field forces 3 weather satellites into emergency maneuvers. 2 make it, 1 doesn't. The world just silently lost a significant piece of its storm forecasting capability. And building in the Gulf of Mexico right now, completely unwatched, is a storm system that normally has 17 meteorologists tracking its every move. Nobody is watching it. Nobody knows where it's going. Back on the ground, something even more invisible is happening inside the energy grid. The U.S. power system runs on a coordination technology called SCADA. Thousands of nodes balancing electricity supply and demand in real time, many of them communicating through internet-connected interfaces. When those interfaces go dark, operators switch to backup protocols. Backup protocols are slower, less precise, and the power grid punishes imprecision instantly. Day 6. Texas. A coordination failure cascades across 17 substations simultaneously. 11 million people lose electricity. In July. In Texas, repair crews can't coordinate because their apps are gone. The outage stretches 9 days, but here's what makes it so much worse. The natural gas pipelines feeding those power plants run on automated valve systems, receiving pressure signals through networked sensors. Without those signals, the valves default to conservative flow rates. A logical, well-designed safety measure. Power plants that should have fuel find their supply choked. They burn through reserves fast. The crews who could manually override the valves can't physically reach the remote locations in time. The roads out of the blacked-out cities are completely gridlocked. Nothing malfunctioned. No system failed. Every machine did exactly what it was programmed to do. That is the part that should terrify you. Week 3. Agriculture. 70% of the world's crop insurance, commodity trading, and agricultural financing runs through digital platforms. Farmers don't just grow food. They secure financing before planting season. They lock in prices months ahead. They insure against crop failure before seeds go in the ground. All of it is now inaccessible. Banks aren't processing agricultural loans. Insurance companies can't verify existing policies. Farmers who were days away from planting the largest acreage of their careers are standing at the edge of unplanted fields. Fields they cannot afford to seed because their financial backing is completely unreachable. Some plant anyway, betting everything on a harvest they hope will find a buyer. Others don't plant at all. Here is the moment that should stop your breathing. The food crisis that strikes 8 months from now wasn't caused by drought, wasn't caused by disease, wasn't caused by any visible disaster. It was decided in week 3, in silent fields, by farmers making impossible guesses with no information. Month 4. The strategic balance of global military power inverts. Silently, completely. Nations that invested everything into advanced networked warfare are struggling to execute basic operations. Nations with lower-tech conventional forces and analog command structures are operating at nearly full capacity. Certain actors have noticed this shift. Certain actors are making decisions based on it right now. Month 2. Something nobody predicted happens. Ransomware gangs go completely quiet. Not guilt, pure logistics. Ransomware needs internet connectivity to function. Overnight, their entire business model evaporates. But nature abhors a vacuum. The gap ransomware leaves gets filled immediately by something older, more dangerous, and significantly harder to stop. Physical organized crime surges in ways no law enforcement agency was prepared for. Because law enforcement itself is broken. Interpol databases are inaccessible. Facial recognition at every border crossing goes dark. Financial monitoring systems stop tracking money movement entirely. Criminal networks that had been meticulously mapped and watched for years simply vanish from the surveillance grid. And they know exactly what just happened. Within 6 weeks, trafficking networks dismantled over the previous decade quietly rebuild themselves, crossing borders that suddenly have no digital eyes watching. Month 7. Here is the moment historians will argue about for centuries. University research servers start failing. Cooling systems offline. Automated maintenance stopped. Inside those servers, decades of unpublished scientific research stored in active cloud storage because physical backup was considered obsolete. When the servers die, the data doesn't migrate, doesn't compress into an emergency archive. It stops existing. 40 years of Antarctic ice core climate research, gone. A nearly complete dataset mapping antibiotic resistance across 60 countries. Gone. 17 experimental cancer treatments in final refinement stages. Never published. Never saved. Gone. Not stolen. Not deliberately destroyed. Just gone. Like it never happened. The scientific community won't understand what it lost for years. And now, the final twist. The one that reframes everything you just heard. When the internet comes back on day 365, it doesn't snap on like a light switch. Infrastructure rebuilds carefully. Servers come back online in sequence. Security certificates re-authenticate. Firewalls reload layer by layer. During that process, that fragile window when every authentication layer is still spinning back up, every network on Earth sits in a state it has never been in before. More exposed than the day it was first connected. Someone knew this would happen. Someone spent an entire year waiting for exactly this window, while the rest of the world assumed the nightmare was ending. The largest coordinated cyber attack in human history doesn't begin when the internet disappeared. It begins the exact second it came back. And the world, exhausted, desperate, believing it was finally over, had every single defense down. They were never coming to destroy the internet. They were using its absence to make sure that when it returned, they owned it.